I'm Dr. Tom Narrow, and thank you for coming to my online presentation. This is free ergonomic training for people who work in an office, people who use a computer workstation. This is preventing work-at-home injuries during the pandemic. So I've been a physical therapist since 2006, and I've been practicing ergonomics for quite a while as well. In the last 3 years, I started my own company called MyPT, and I have a clinic located in Southwick, Massachusetts. Part of my business is working with clients face-to-face, sometimes hands-on, to help them reduce injuries, but mostly it's to recover from some sort of injury, accident, even if they have a disease or illness that's affected their physical wellness. I'm the physical therapist to help bring them back to their pre-existing level of function and condition. Part of that is not just how you move, it's how you feel when you move. The other part of my business is preventing injuries specifically through applying ergonomics. And I'll talk a little bit more about ergonomics in the upcoming slides. So this presentation will be recorded. So if you would like not to be part of the recording, you can turn off your audio and turn off your video. And I'll be doing most of the talking today anyway, so without further ado, let's get going with what you will learn from this presentation. Well, first of all, people are getting hurt working from home. It sounds kind of funny, but it's the truth. Working at home is different than working in the office. And since the pandemic started earlier this year, many workers in this country, as well as the rest of the world, went to their home to work. So this work at home or remote work situation is bringing up some problems that we really haven't encountered previously. So I'm going to shed more light on that. And number two, ergonomics can help the situation. There have been times before the pandemic when providers like physical therapists worked with employees on the job site, in the office, to help them set up their workstation so it was fit more for the person and not so much the person fitting to the workstation. And we found from years of this application of this practice, ergonomics, that we can actually improve worker productivity, comfort, and what's better than that when you have a worker that's comfortable working and they can actually get the job done the way that keeps the business going, keep things flowing. So number three is today you're going to learn 3 stretches to help prevent the problems created from working at a computer workstation. So we'll go through those. There are 3 videos, and I've put them in different places during the presentation. So we'll have a little bit of relief from the lecture as we go along. Number 4, I'm going to talk about the challenges with using a laptop. Laptops are very popular for many reasons, and they have pitfalls. Without adapting to the use of a laptop, I should say, without critiquing the way you use a laptop, you may be putting yourself at more risk for having an injury. And they don't always happen right away. Ergonomic injuries are related to reduced blood flow, and over time, reduced blood flow to a part of the body can cause damage. Number 5, I'm going to teach you about some of the sitting breakdowns that happen. This is, posture 101. When did we ever have this training? Probably not too much, if ever, but we tend to have many problems or breakdowns when we talk about sitting. And that's because we tend to sit in many different ways, not just straight up and down. And then finally, I'm going to talk about one of the number 1 reasons why people come to see me in my office, and it's for their neck and shoulder problems. And most of the time it's related to working in an office setting. using a computer workstation. So I'm going to tell you about how you can prevent neck and shoulder pain from starting in the first place as it relates to working in the office. Okay, so let's talk about what are ergonomics. I'm going to put a little picture up on the screen. Okay, so here we have a dog trying to ride a bike. I love this picture. This is my wife is trying to help her dog Maddie ride the bike. They also have another friend who is stabilizing the front wheel. But despite having two people trying to help her ride the bike and a set of training wheels, it's not working very well. Not at all. It's more of a picture, posing for a picture. So what's Maddie's problem here? Why isn't this working? Well, it's because it's a case of poor ergonomics. Let me explain why. Ergonomics are about finding the ideal fit for the person or the canine in this picture to the work environment. You know, it's easy for our bodies to adapt to things around us, but when we sacrifice our body position for, you know, the sake of time or convenience or not thinking it through a little bit further, we can actually put our body's health in jeopardy, causing an injury. So we have to take into account several factors, and one of them is the workstation, but ideally it's the person that the workstation is going to have to be fit around. And every body has different characteristics, physical attributes. Some people are taller, some people are shorter, some people are narrow, some people are wide, some people have different abilities. And we know that. We have a wide variety of abilities among people, and that's why it's important to find the right person for the job, first of all. So taking a dog and put it on a bike, we know this is not a good fit right from the start because the bike isn't designed for the dog to sit. Dogs don't sit like this and pedal bikes. Maybe we've seen bears on little motorbikes before, driving around in the circus. Totally different story, but I digress. The person's habits also play a big factor. And I'm going to shed a little bit more light on what that means exactly. But put it this way, what you do day in, day out affects the actionables that you have to do every day, or the goals, or your to-do list, whatever you want to call it. And the way that you work around that list to get things done, you have certain postures and movements and triggers to how you move or how you respond. And that all can affect how your body accepts the stress and becomes resistant to other stress. And finally, OSHA, which is the national commission that makes sure that employees, workers are safe. They're safe and they're healthy on the job. They recommend employers actually put together some type of an ergonomic program or checklist so you can make sure you're identifying the potential ergonomic risks for workers and having some way to remediate them. So there was a study in July 2020, this summer. The results I found to be pretty striking. So Lenovo is a computer company that you may remember used to be IBM, and now they're Lenovo. They consume about 25% of the world's computer sales. So they wanted to go out and find what's going on with their customers. And so they made this study. It was worldwide. It covered 10 countries, including the United States, over 20,000 remote workers. So Lenovo specifically was looking at who went from the office to their home since COVID, during the pandemic, and then what's happened to them, what's their opinion? Well, a lot of different questions, and one of the, I think, most important factors that people had the impression that they were more productive working at home than they were in the office. They also found out that the majority of the people about 85% felt like they were more reliant on computers now than they were when they were actually working at the office itself. 70% of the workers actually bought new equipment. And out of that 70%, the employers actually paid for 61% of the full cost. But what's probably the bigger takeaway from this statistic is what happened in the United States. So United States workers paid on average $348 of their own money, their own resources, to beef up their computer equipment or software or accessories, just so they can make the work at home station actually function. So $348 of their own personal dollars. The biggest part of the study that I took away that stunned me the most, 71% of these remote workers actually got hurt or re-injured while working from home. Now, these are new cases of injuries, new cases of symptoms, or I should say, and it also includes any pre-existing issue that's now triggered and come back. And here are the 6 things that came out of these injuries. This is how they were reported: lower back pain, neck pain, poor posture. They also reported having headaches, difficulty sleeping, and even eye strain. Now, 2 of these are really like functions, right? We talk about posture. Posture is a function, and then sleeping. Sleeping is another function. And if you have poor posture, as a physical therapist, I can see that the changes in your mechanics, from slouching perhaps in your chair, that poor posture can lead to problems like lower back pain and neck pain. So I think one of those functions creates 2 of those problems at a minimum, but also difficulty sleeping. Now, you're not working when you sleep. So why are you having problems sleeping? Well, the study didn't really go into more of those details. However, this is what is important when we have poor ergonomic standards, poor ergonomic training. The person on the other end who's working could be going through some symptoms, and they may or may not be reporting it. And one thing like poor posture can lead to other issues like pain. It doesn't have to be the neck or the back. It could be in the wrist. It could be in the fingers. But having trouble sleeping, how can you even recover for the next day if you can't get all your sleep? Because most of the healing that happens inside of the body occurs when we are sleeping. So this is really good information. But let's take a little break, and we're going to come back to the next segment. So having, going through this information, the lecture, the statistics, you might be having a lot of thoughts. You may be kind of feeling a little tight. So let's do a stretch. This stretch is to help with shoulder pain. So I encourage you to follow along, listen to the audio, so you can practice what you see and listen to what you hear for the cueing. So here we go for stretch to prevent shoulder pain. Interlock your fingers and breathe in as you raise your hands up, stretching straight overhead. Breathe out. Inhale again and out. Separate your hands, breathing in. Lower your arms by your sides. Breathing out, squeeze your shoulder blades back as you breathe in, and finally breathe out, relax arms down. Okay, great. Well, I can already feel the blood flowing a little bit better through my upper body, my back, my shoulders. And keep in mind that when we're working at a computer workstation all day, 5 days a week, we're not really raising our arms up overhead. And when we raise our arms up overhead, we're stretching parts of the shoulder, parts of the neck, and parts of the back. Okay, so I did some of my personal research. That Lenovo study really got me thinking, what else is going on? So I talked to my clients, the clients who come to see me face to face, and we work on their, say, the neck and the shoulder. I say, okay, well, what's going on at home at your computer workstation? I said, well, I kind of know when there's a problem. Well, let's go back. Click the button too soon. So yeah, people are saying that they know when there's a problem in their body. I say, okay, well, when you know that there's a problem, what do you do about it? Well, one person says, I just push through the discomfort. It really makes me think, are we really trying to make things worse on purpose? And I don't think that's really it. We're not trying to be, people aren't trying to be malicious to themselves and make things hurt more. But their focus, the focus is on, the job. So another person I talked to, and they say, well, I'm getting good at ignoring how my body feels. This one really made me step back because I thought, am I failing as a physical therapist by training my client about body awareness? However, they're telling me point blank that they're just ignoring what's going on. And I think there's probably more about this comment that applies not to just that one person, but to other people as well. And I think, are there times when I may have ignored my body when I was doing something, say like working out really rigorously, and what happens? You breathe real heavy, your heart starts pounding, you get uncomfortable, you sweat, and sometimes you feel like, maybe I should stop and get a little lightheaded. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up for. Well, in those cases, you're not ignoring them, you're acknowledging them, and you know the result of what's going to come. But when you're having pain or discomfort and you're doing something that really shouldn't be causing pain or discomfort, and then you're ignoring it, that is not a good situation. So I created a survey. I needed more info. I had to go beyond my clients at this point. So I reached out to one of the top IT companies in Western Massachusetts. Now, I selected them because I thought, computer techies, right? You're going to be the ones who are going to be at a computer all day long trying to fix other people's computer issues, whether it's in-house or it's remote because you have servers and networks set up all over the place, handle, accounts with hundreds of employees. How do you keep track of all this stuff? More importantly, how are you set up? How are you putting your body together at your workstation, and how does it feel? So here's some of the results. The survey included 16 local workforce computer users, and about 2/3 say that they use a computer workstation 31 to 50 hours per week. And then the other third uses the computer workstation 51 to 60 hours plus per week. So this demographic can kind of give an idea of how much you or the coworkers or employees that you have, how much are they getting that screen time? Well, these 16 workers, about 2/3 of them sap pretty much all the time. That's how they do their job. So when they're working at home, I wanted to know, where do you go to work? And the majority of them said that they go to their home office, which is kind of refreshing for me to hear that, because they have a designated place to do their work, which I think is necessary. And about 18%, almost 19% said that they use their couch or recliner. So, if you're doing that, you're probably using a laptop. And then if you go outside on the deck or the porch, which was about 12.5%, you're also taking a laptop with you. And there are some other places that they said that they went in their home, like the kitchen or even their bed. What I didn't include on here, because the answer was 0, no one takes their work to the bathroom. I had to ask because I was curious. It was just not one that they selected. That's probably a good thing. So out of these 16 computer users, we find out that 15 out of 16, okay, almost every single one of them, 15 out of 16 reported feeling stress, whether it was at the home office or at the office, okay? So the stress I have underlined, italicized, bolded, and asterisk, because I'm going to tell you more about how they actually are talking about stress. Because I asked them, what are the ways that you feel stress when you do feel stress in your body? Well, again, 15 out of 16 of them said that there are parts of their workstation, both at home and at the office, that there's something about it that they would change, something that they could address to improve their comfort. So people know that they're having stress at work and the office, at home, working at home and working at the office. And they also know that there's a problem with something that they can change or that they would want to change to improve their comfort. So we know what is going on. What do we, this is just one of those signs of what kind of action are we taking. So here's how the stress is affecting your body. And this is what these 16 workers said. Now, they didn't select just one, it could have been 2 or 3 or more, but they reported muscle tightness or tension, changes in their productivity. Well, that's a big factor. That means that supervisors may notice this, or the bottom line might eventually be affected if productivity is changed. I'm guessing it's going to be declined, just like a difficulty in focus. Work stress will typically make you less focused and distracted. They also said they get soreness, aches, they get some numbness or tingling, dry eyes or burning eyes. That's a sign of even like pain between your eyes or to the side of your head. That could potentially be eye strain. They also mentioned ringing in the ears, anxiety, tiredness, and headaches. So that was the end of the study, the survey that I did to get all that information. So I can see that the Lenovo study tells us that, yes, there is a problem. And locally, I do this study and I identify, yes, there is a problem. And I just wonder, how much are people actually suffering in silence? Because without asking, we may never actually know until they come to see me, because they turn into clients because sometimes they wait too long to address the problem, and then the pain sets in and they can't get out of it, and they need help pulling themselves back to a neutral, a balance point, and the workstation gets addressed. We have to address it. So excuse me, in 1990, the Ergonomic Concerns, where workers were getting hurt at work, this is not just the office, it's anywhere, it's all industries. The getting hurt at work was related 20% to the design of the workstation, the work environment, and 80% was related to worker habit. So what that means is that in 1990, majority of the workstations that were set up where people were hurt were just a small piece of why that person got hurt. And the main reason was because something happened with the worker. Maybe it was the way that they stepped or the way that they positioned themselves, or it was something with how the workers were interacting with their work environment. Well, that puts a lot of blame on the worker. It also shows that there's a lot of training that needs to go into keeping workers safe from getting hurt at work. So today, this is my guesstimate. Based on what I'm seeing with office ergonomics and people working at home now, it's not just 20% work design. I think it's 50%, because now you're in your home setting that was never evaluated by your employer, your supervisor, or the ergo person. So who's taking a look at it? And who's setting it up? Are you setting it up? Are you trying to make a change? Are you trying to improve it? Do you know how to make these changes? This is not common sense. That's why there are people who help others improve their posture in their workstation setup. And I think the other 50% is obviously it's going to be related to worker habit, and this is going to be like how you sit. How many people sit at their computer chair at home while they're working on their computer, and they tuck one leg underneath, and you sit on top of that foot? That's worker habit. Now, I didn't say what's good or bad habit yet, but once I show you what good posture looks like, you can decide for yourself how far away from good posture are you, and how can you bring yourself back to better posture. Okay, so time for another little lecture break. This is stretch to prevent for low back pain. So again, watch the video, follow along, listen for the cues, and try this out.
Stand up from your chair and place your feet shoulder width apart. Put your hands on the back of your hips. Now lean your shoulders back and push your hips forward. Return to the starting position. Repeat again and breathe in on the way back and breathe out standing back up tall. Change your hand position for different support to the lower back. Again, breathing in on the way back and breathing out on the way standing up. Your hips should be pushing forward each time you lean your shoulders backwards.
Yeah, that was great. This is one of my favorite ones. You know, when we sit so much, our lower back actually bends forward, and standing up helps straighten it out. So if you sit too much and you notice that you have problems in your lower back, pain, tightness, soreness, something like that, well, stand up. And then try this exercise with bending backwards, supporting your lower back. It should help make it feel a little better and stimulate the circulation through the muscles, joints, and the little discs that are in between your vertebrae. We want to keep those guys healthy. Okay, so what are work-related injuries? Yeah, there's the typical definition where injury is characterized as a discomfort and pain in the joints, muscles, and soft tissues. So, for example, an ankle sprain is a form of a soft tissue injury. So is carpal tunnel syndrome, both of which can happen working in the office. And a third of work-related illness is due to injuries to the muscles and joints. We call this the musculoskeletal system. And when you put that together with the problems that are being created, we call them MSDs, for musculoskeletal disorders. And it could be a sprain, a strain, a nerve pinch, compression. It can be related to poor posture. These type of issues, 1/3 of the whole country, work-related issues are related to these potentially preventable problems. And ergonomics helps prevent musculoskeletal disorders. Again, OSHA does recommend that companies have some line of defense against ergonomic risk factors. How do you know what ergonomic risk factors you have? Well, it may help to have an ergonomic consultation to assess what specific risk factors exist in your work setting. When it comes to working in the office, it's going to be sitting all the time, or repetitive motion through your mouse and your keyboard, or poor posture with the alignment of you and your computer workstation, your monitor. So it's not just for construction workers, it's also for office workers. Ergonomics does help. And a small change now can make a big difference down the road. Okay, so I mentioned what's good posture. Here it is. What makes this good posture? Well, when we're standing or sitting, gravity, no matter what, is always trying to pull us down to the core of the earth. And what happens is that when we're standing upright, the more we can put one part over the other part, it's like a set of Jenga building blocks. The more you have them over each other, the more stable they become. So, for example, when you stand, you want to have your head, so your ear is lined up with your shoulder, and this is looking from the side. So if I stand to the side, you can see my ear lined up with my shoulder. All right, you know, if my head is forward, you can see how, you know, I'm not in good position there anymore. But the head's over the shoulders are over the hips, and the hips are over the ankles. Now at the workstation, you have to bend your arms about 90 degrees at the elbow, so your hands rest right over your keyboard. Your monitor should be lined up with your eyes to the top of the monitor, and your feet should be flat on the floor. And when you're sitting, you still keep your head over your shoulders and your shoulders over your hips. But you have to make sure that you slide your hips all the way back, so the backrest is, you're contacting the backrest with your lower back or your upper back. Your hips are actually bent 90 degrees, just like your knees and your elbows, but your feet have to be flat on the floor. And when we stand, it's easy to keep the feet flat, but when you're sitting, sometimes we have a tendency to shift where those feet actually are making contact, whether it's one tucked underneath your chair while you're sitting on your leg, not recommended. Or if you pick up your feet and just stick them up on the wall underneath your desk, it's not very recommended either. So let's talk about some of the problems with a laptop. On the left, you can see a picture of Melissa. She's using a laptop. And the first thing that I notice is that, well, if we just looked at what good posture is, you know, where are her eyes? Her eyes are pointing down at her laptop monitor. The issue here is that when she's looking downward rather than straight ahead, that's causing more work in the muscles in the eyes. And also, the head is going to be tipped down a little bit too. This makes the muscles in the neck and the shoulder work more. So other than the picture where we can see some of these issues, the big thing that you should understand is that laptops are made for convenience and portability. That's why we saw on our survey of the IT workers, if you take your computer to the recliner, or you take your computer to the bed or to the kitchen, you're probably not picking up your tower and screen and setting it up. You're going to be taking a laptop or a tablet because it's portable and convenient. The other issue is, well, I already said it, having the head looking down. But keep in mind that the arm position is pretty good. The elbows are about 90 degrees. However, because Melissa is looking down, you can see in this picture on the left, she's looking down. She has to push the keyboard, and I'm sorry, she has to push the laptop away so the monitor is at a tolerable angle. Because if she brought it closer, her elbows would be by her side, and then she would have to look down and tip her head down even further. So the laptop in this situation causes her arms to reach a little forward and her head to come down. And downward gaze, like we said, that's a problem. For a long period of time, it turns into eye strain. And that can sometimes be first recognized by dry eyes, red or itchy eyes, or tiredness in the eyes. Some keyboards are actually too narrow for some people. So in this example, this picture, the keyboard, I've seen it myself, and it's on the narrow side for me, but for Melissa, I think she's probably going to be doing fine with it. But if you have small hands, a small keyboard from a laptop is fine. But if you have large hands, then you probably have to get a laptop that has a big screen, because a big screen means you're going to get a big keyboard, or you want to just look for that big keyboard to begin with. So I gave it a try. Let's see if Dr. Tom was able to improve the ergonomics using a laptop, not on the desk, but propped up on a couple boxes. So you can see that the line of sight, I'm looking basically straight ahead. The top of the laptop is lined up with, my eyes, or is slightly below. But if I get my eyes in a good position, how do I get my hands up to the keyboard? So I have to reach, and in that reach, having the arms out like this to work, it's not really conducive to being productive and a long, let's just say, a career of typing like this. I'll get really big deltoid muscles in the front of my shoulders, but this will also cause some strain on my neck and my back. As we can see, this awkward reach is not necessarily helping me. It could be just a quick and easy way to type a couple notes. Like I said, the neck and the shoulder muscles are going to have to do extra work. And keep this in mind, when we exercise to build muscle, we do a little bit under resistance and we take a rest before we do more repetitions. So when we're working, if we have a position where we're using our muscles and say, yeah, I'm active, I'm burning calories, I'm building muscle, well, muscles need a break. They need to rest. And that's what we encourage when people use a computer workstation. Take a break from your workstation. Rest your eyes, rest your neck, your shoulders, your back. Change positions, get some blood flowing. So here's the resolved problem with this laptop situation. So we're talking about getting the laptop propped up so the screen is at a good height, lined up with the eyes, and we have a keyboard that is at a level where our elbows can be by our sides and at a 90-degree angle. Even though I may not be at this workstation in the picture on the left, you can see that the keyboard is next to the mouse, and that is at the standing workstation. It's at an appropriate height for my elbows to be bent at 90 degrees and my eyes to be looking straight ahead. So I fixed both the problems that we examined in the picture with me and the picture with Melissa. Sitting posture breakdowns, they really need to be addressed sooner than later. And I say this because the longer we stay in one position, the more likely you're going to get molded into that position. It's true. You're going to get tight in certain places, like the front of your hips, or in your lower back, or behind your knees. But just having good posture, I mean, it fixes a lot of the issues. Changing positions helps too. But if you never know how to actively sit, then every time you're sitting, you could be causing further breakdown inside your body. This is what I'm talking about here. Here's Melissa again, back at her laptop. So we know that her laptop was pushed further away. That was so she could not have to look down so far and keep her elbows bent by her side to use the keyboard. But in this position, she's really trying to focus on what's on the screen. I don't really see anything, but she thinks that there's something on that screen. She has to bring her head closer so her eyes can focus better. If a person has poor eyesight, they're very likely to be leaning forward to see their computer monitor, see what's on the screen. So the position that she's in, this is what I would call a slump position. And it's slumping because her shoulders are leaning almost over her hips. They're over her legs at this point, and her head is almost as far as her knees, if you can see underneath the desk. So this creates a lot of extra work for the muscles in her neck and her back. Now, one piece of information I didn't say before that might give you a little bit of, the gravity of the situation. When we're sitting up straight and our head is lined up, the ears lined up with the shoulder, this is the most efficient way our muscles in our neck and our back can actually support our body. So the more that we're here, the easier it is, the less energy it takes. Therefore, we can last longer. But for every inch that your head is sticking forward, it creates an extra 10 pounds of pressure in the muscles in the neck and the back to support your posture. So that means extra resistance. And if you take that extra resistance over a long period of time, it's really going to have some negative effects on the body. Too much work in certain muscles create fatigue. Fatigue causes lack of blood flow. Lack of blood flow causes symptoms and compensations. Let's take a look at another picture. There's Melissa again, trying to see what's going on with that laptop screen. She apparently got tired of leaning forward, and now she reverted to a leaning compensation. So she's leaning to the left, her left elbow's on the desk, and her head is in her hand. Her muscles in her neck and back can relax a little bit, and now she can just use one hand to type in what she wants to on the computer. Well, this is kind of like a resting position. Yeah, that's okay. Take some pressure off. Well, how long is she going to be doing this for? If this is a couple minutes or even more on a regular basis, she not only went from fatiguing her muscles in an attempt to keep good posture, now she's going to cause fatigue in her muscles in a bad posture, and may, as a result, develop some sort of head tilt to the side. But she's not using her muscles. So lack of muscle use, yeah, it'll give you some rest, but if this is a chronic thing, you're training your body how to stay kind of bent over, slumped, and lean to the side. Okay. Let's talk about preventing neck and shoulder pain. Neck and shoulder pain, like I said, is one of the biggest problems that I actually come across in my office. And most of the time it's because of the computer workstation. So here are some easy ways that you can get ahead of neck and shoulder pain, or try to fix something if something that you're actually experiencing now. So the first one is poor posture. The root of all ergonomic problems, in a way, poor posture. We can fix it. Try sitting up tall. Also try standing up. If you change your postures, you're actually going to be limiting how much certain muscles are working. And it's like taking a little break from doing one thing and doing something else. But try to line everything up as best you can to keep your body, upright and vertical when you're sitting and standing. And use the support of the chair and the backrest to keep yourself supported. You got to sit 6, 8, 10 hours a day. You're going to need a little bit of help. And it's okay. That's what it's there for. So another issue is repetitive motion. So for example, if you have say 2 monitors, a dual monitor workstation setup, one's to the left and one's to the right, and then you have papers you have to look at, and they're down low. Okay, they're down low, so you have to look down, and then you go to your keyboard and you type in your mouse, you click, you go from one screen, you go to another, and you look down again. And you have to keep doing this data entry, looking down and looking back up and looking to the side and back and forth. This moving your head back and forth over and over and over again, that will turn into a problem if this is part of your job for 2 hours or more per day. If you're always looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up, this repetitive motion can cause issues with your neck, especially if you're always looking down to the same side. There's a better solution. But the big thing is we want to minimize how much we actually are changing the head looking down and to the extremes. Looking down, like I said, can cause a lot of problems with extra muscle tension and muscle activity. Awkward reaching. So one example I actually had from a client recently. We're talking about the workstation, and I figured out that there's a problem in the back on the right side by the shoulder blade, and where the phone is set up at our workstation, it's on the left side of the monitor. So every time the phone rings, this right-handed individual will reach with the right hand across, forward and across to the side of the monitor, pick up the phone, talk on the phone. And then at that point, having to put it back down, and then the phone rings, pick it back up again. So there's reaching back and forth, back and forth. It's not necessary. So the solution that I provided for this person was, let's try using the left hand more, right? If you exercise and you do some bicep curls, you're going to work out just one side, get really strong, really big on one side. No, you're going to do both sides. So if you can do exercises on both sides, then you should be able to pick up the phone with both hands without having to reach across. Or we could also move the phone to the other side, right? So your desk space organization does play a factor in your ergonomic risk factors. And balancing the phone on the ear. So once you reach across the desk and you pick up the phone and you start talking to somebody, well, now you have to type something in. And as you do that, you have to balance the phone. So you're typing and you're balancing the phone. Usually the muscles will get tired before the phone call's over. So you might switch sides. But you know what? I'm not a pro on this side. I'm not dominant sided with balancing the phone on my left shoulder to my ear. So this actually takes more work, and that gets tired more quickly. If you go back to the other side, and this problem, your muscles and your neck and your shoulder, they get all jacked up. We have to minimize how much we're actually balancing the phone on our shoulders. Easy solution, a little bit of an investment, get a headset. Not a big deal, a lot of people use them. Another option that's less expensive, most phones are equipped with a speakerphone function. So as long as you can have a conversation that's either not confidential or you don't have to worry about the people around you hearing, use that speakerphone option. Minimize how much you are balancing that phone on your ear, because you're going to have to use your hands to use the mouse and the keyboard, right? Usually. And then finally, texting. Everyone knows that texting can cause problems, even like texting thumb, because you're doing so much. But, when we're texting, do you see people actually putting the phone up in front of their face like this? No, not really. And what would be better? Well, you could maybe even have the phone like this. Well, what's typical of what we see? The phone will be down low and their head will be looking down. And as we're looking down, there's social media, emails, text messages, YouTube, so many things. The world is at our fingertips and our head is down a lot more than it should be. And it causes issues. So see if you can hold the phone up in front of your face more when you're doing your texting, minimize how much you have to text. Try to even use your talk to text function. That can minimize how much you are actually looking down at your phone. And if you have the option, even in your computer chair, take a hold of your phone, okay? Usually it'll start down here when you're texting. But if you're in your computer chair, can you lean back? If you lean back in your chair, you see what happens? See what's happening to the phone? So the phone actually becomes more lined up with my line of sight. So right now I'm looking down, okay? And then if I lean back, as if I was in a chair, now the line of sight is going more straight ahead. So you can lean back in your computer chair. Just make sure you don't tip backwards, okay? You should have 5 casters on the bottom of your computer chair if that's what you're doing. It should have a tilt back function that's safe. Or if you have a recliner, reclining chairs work really well when you want to do text messaging. lay on back. All right, so it's time for our final stretch for this morning. This is our stretch.
Tip your head to the left so
oh, we got a little head there. This is our stretch to prevent neck pain. So again, follow along with the video, listen for the audio, for the cues, and this will help loosen up your neck muscles.
Tip your head to the left so your ear goes towards your shoulder, then roll your chin to your chest and your right ear to your right shoulder. Repeat to the other side in this half circle motion so you can loosen the muscles around your neck and your shoulders.
Yeah, that's a real good one. I like that. I practice that on a daily basis, and you can too. Try this one sitting down. If you're comfortable, you can practice standing up, but sitting down is better just in case you get a little disoriented, moving your head around. Go slowly and you should feel comfortable. There could be a little bit of neck crunching or cracking. That's okay. It shouldn't really hurt. None of these stretches should hurt. And if they do, that might mean that you either have to work on it more or there is an underlying problem that should be addressed by a health professional. But why should managers and supervisors care about ergonomics? Well, I know I'm crazy about them, but let's see what everyone else might really, care about. Ergonomics, like we said, helps decrease, ergonomic risks can help decrease job performance over time. So if we can minimize those risk factors, job performance can improve. And these are kind of things that time is a factor, and usually when you implement a injury prevention program, it can take 6 months to 2 years to see a change. Well, I mentioned that blood flow is a big factor when, say, for example, you're slumping in your chair and your muscles in your neck and back are having to work more. This will lead to muscle fatigue. Muscle fatigue, people usually, they have that feeling of tiredness, or maybe there's a little burning in the muscles. Well, this can lead to discomfort or other symptoms if it's just ignored. Ignoring tiredness of your muscles is not good, because when a muscle is tired, it means it needs a break. And if you don't give it a break from what's causing the tiredness, it can turn into an issue. These can be a problem a month down the road or years down the road. So the sooner you address it, the sooner you prevent it from actually becoming a concern. But when we do have symptoms, it's typical, as you saw with the posture of Melissa. She started going from a slouch position to a leaning position. These are called compensations. And she does that so she can continue to function, performing at her job. May not be the same, quality, or may not be the same standard set forth by the company, but we're talking about what's going on with the body here, and it's your body. What are you doing to your body? What can you do to improve your body, the health, the comfort, and the safety of your body while working? Injuries slowly creep up, and it's kind of funny, but we call these creeper injuries. That's right, because they sneak up on you before you think there's a problem. You don't have any idea that it's coming, and then one day you have pain, and it could happen at different times. Like it could happen in the middle of the night when you're sleeping. You could wake up with it. It could happen when you're going grocery shopping, and then you go back to your workstation and there's some sort of issue with, say, repetitive motion, and now you can't shake this injury, and you set yourself up for it by accident. And accidents can be prevented. So we want to minimize the repeated exposure to small damage called microtrauma that affects the body. Now, the bottom line, there's a lot of money at stake when it comes to jobs. We live in a capitalistic society, and we pretty much have to work to make a living to keep, food, water, shelter, clothing, all that good stuff going on for us and our families. But the company's bottom line, if they can't keep in business, if they lose money because workers are getting hurt, it's not going to be helping them. And they're going to, eventually it could happen. They could go out of business. But the bottom line gets affected when a worker gets hurt. Worker has to get pulled out of the job. Therefore, that person's job duties aren't going to get filled for, the short term. That injury might turn into something serious where it requires therapy or even surgery. So the extent of the length of time this person's out of work, that adds up to more reduced productivity from that worker. So naturally, the employer will say, okay, let's get someone to fill in for Johnny or Susie. And now they're going to first ask for current employees to work overtime, which costs some money, right? Time and a half, maybe double time to do that overtime work. And if it goes on long enough, that gets expensive. So might as well, try to fill that position, because that person, that injury, it's taken longer to heal and recover from than it was expected. We might just have to, work with that person when they're ready to come back, but we need someone now. So the company is going to hire and train a new employee to pick up some of the slack. And when you hire and train a new employee, it costs a lot of money up front, because there's a little bit of a learning curve to start a new job. So that's how the bottom line gets affected. But the biggest problem, it really is the employee. The employee who gets hurt, their life may never be the same again. And I've seen this. I've seen individuals come to me for physical therapy, and they have not been able to return to work from work-related injuries that may have been prevented. Hard to see once you're all the way at that point, but strategies that are being put in place to prevent ergonomic risk factors now prevent costly and life-changing injuries that really change the dynamic and the culture of who you're working and who you're working for, and why you're working, there in the first place. So a lot of reasons why we all should care about ergonomics and preventing injuries at work. Here's a 60-second video I would like you to watch right now. I'm just going to move my little bubble to the side. And there we go.
A recent survey revealed 7 out of 10 remote employees were injured while working at home during COVID. Does that mean your entire staff who went remote are at a high risk for a work-related injury? If so, the company can expect lost time, more expenses, unhappy workers, and dissatisfied customers. How could this happen? There's a general lack of training about body posture, movement, office equipment, and furniture to keep workers safe for hours behind a computer. The good news is that you can get ahead of it now, rather than watching injury numbers rise within the company. Business managers who are dedicated to employee comfort and productivity trust my PT to train workers on how to prevent injuries from computer workstations, at home or in the office. Save yourself time and money by choosing a trained professional. Start a conversation with Dr. Tom to learn more.
Thank you for watching that. And here I want to give you the solutions that my PT has created to prevent these work at home injuries. So like I said, one thing that I do with ergonomics is help people set up and use the right posture at their computer workstation. And we can do this virtually right now. Rather than going into the office to help people, they're at home, and visiting each person at home is a challenge. So I can enter their home virtually, and it's quite simple, using either a laptop, a tablet, or a smartphone to function as a camera and audio. Through a video chat function, I can see workers in their home office setting and give them advice about where they're making mistakes and how to improve the situation. So the Speedy Office Ergo Check is top of the list, and speedy meaning it's 15 minutes long. And this 15-minute evaluation with a worker virtually, I can assess the major problem areas like chair, desk, and monitor position as well as the keyboard and mouse, so we can figure out what's the best way to get this fixed quick, okay? Now, for some individuals who may be having more in-depth issues, maybe it's not a simple workstation at all, they would benefit from a full computer workstation ergonomic assessment. And this is a 45-minute workstation assessment we can do virtually. And it goes a little bit more in depth with pointing out other factors that can be addressed in order to improve function and productivity and comfort at work. Here, we'll also have a little bit more time to show preventative stretches or exercises that make a lot of sense for the individual that we're working with. And then finally, I offer a group computer workstation training, and this is a 75-minute peer-to-peer or coworker to coworker assessment. So myself plus 3 to 6 employees, okay, you work in the same company, we all get on a virtual group chat together, and we can see everybody's station. So not only can I help each one, but each person learns from the other. Most people may have, same problems. Some people may have a unique situation, and once in a while you'll see people actually having some really good questions about why this and not that, and that person has this, but I don't, how come? And it's a great learning opportunity for employees to learn together. So again, my name is Dr. Tom Nero from My PT. Thank you for joining me this morning. I had a great time presenting to you. I really do enjoy ergonomics. I have a passion for it. I have a personal experience with poor ergonomic setup at a computer workstation myself, and it took me a while to figure out what I had to do. And once I did, I never went back. And I want to help as many people as I can avoid the physical pain and personal suffering that people go through that work at their computer workstation and not ignore their body.